Experience hospitality the Northwest way at the Everglades Hotel. Located on the banks of the River Foyle, the Everglades Hotel is just minutes from the centre of Derry, Londonderry, with free on-site guest car parking. Whether you're here for a family meal, a big celebration, or simply a peaceful retreat, we'll make your experience as memorable as the sights in the city. Visit Everglades Hotel Derry for accommodation bookings, the latest menus, live shows and events, and much, much more. See you there.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Gaelic Lives podcast. You're very welcome to our review show, and we're a day late, given the bank holiday and St Patrick's Day on Monday. We're here on Tuesday, but we still have plenty to cover from the weekend. There was lots of big moments and ups and downs from the weekend involving Ulster teams, and we're going to start with what was the big Ulster clash. This was Tyrone against Donegal, and we previewed this with Ron O'Neill last week. We sort of touched on the fact that Donegal maybe didn't want to win this game because it might mean ending up in a league final where Tyrone needed to win this game. And now that's pretty much the way it ended up. Tyrone needed to win and they did win.
Yeah, that's it, Sean. I suppose it went according to script in that respect, though I'm not entirely convinced that Donegal they didn't actively go out to lose the game. The players on the pitch acquitted themselves well. Some of them had excellent games. Like Jamie Brennan in particular was fantastic up front. He picked 4 great points from play if I remember correctly. But I suppose most of the interest was geared towards, well, it's what Tyrone would do, because Tyrone really had to win. If Tyrone had been beaten, they would have been relegated, and the way it's looking, they could be relegated no matter what happens against Dublin on Sunday. It's not beside Cahir's game. He did a bit of research, and he found out that Tyrone would be the first ever team to go down in 7 points from Division 1 if they beat Dublin. It could be, depending what happens elsewhere, obviously, next weekend. But anyway, just in terms of, I suppose, the game in Letterkenny at the weekend, there probably wasn't a wide pile to say about it, just given it was Donegal's second string. Tyrone played reasonably well. They got the grips of Donegal in the middle after about 20 minutes and rattled off a few points. Get a 5 point lead at half time. And for the entirety of the second half, really, it just looked like there was going to be one winner. From a Tyrone perspective, and a Tyrone fell at the end of the day. The depth of Tyrone's panel was impressive, I thought. They were able to string Darren McCurry, Sean O'Donnell, Cormac Quinn, back from the injuries, and Shea O'Hare from the bench in the second half. Those are 4 really good players, and Rory Canavan as well. So those 5 subs would all want to start, really. So it's probably the strongest panel Tyrone have had since they won All Ireland nearly 4 years ago, and the reason for that is probably the return of 3 or 4 players. Roy Brennan, Lord Bradley, Peter Tague are back and all started the weekend. Ben McDonald's returned in recent weeks. He's another lad who dropped off after 2021 and saw him knocking about for the game on Saturday. So he's slipped back in the last couple of weeks as well. So they've thrown up a lot of options. And if you look at the teams that won All Ireland in recent years, they tend to have the best bench. They had a brilliant bench last year. Dublin had an unreal bench in 2023. So from a strong perspective, that's very positive. But the pity is, like, the big Dublin next year, get 7 points on the board and still get relegated. It's a bit nuts.
Yeah, it probably just shows where the league's at this year, that it's so competitive, and you have teams like Mayo that, were looking at relegation a couple of weeks ago. Now they're looking at possibly reaching a league final. Like, it's crazy. But I suppose one of the standout displays, Niall, was that of Niall Morgan, and we thought maybe the tweak in the goalkeeper rule was going to do away with goalkeepers coming out, and we've seen like Ethan Rafferty was replaced by Blaine Hughes on Saturday night from Armagh, but Niall Morgan's just going to play away and do what he likes.
Yeah, he was excellent and deservedly won the Man of the Match award. Only enough, he was presented with the award by Brian Kennedy, which they both did an interview, and Brian absolutely tired over him. And Niall's not a small fella. You're probably looking at that thinking, gee, what hates Niall Morgan? He's about 6 foot. Just shows you what a unit Brian Kennedy is. But anyway, yeah, Niall was excellent, and it was evident from early on that he was going to more or less continue with the role he's been playing for Tyrone in the last year or so, and it's not as if Niall's only started coming out since the new TV3 rule was introduced. I mean, last year he was brilliant as a fly keeper, and he scored a point from play very early on, and he was very prudent in how he came out. He didn't. He probably didn't come out just as much as he'd done in previous games, and Tyrone were careful not to breach the rule amendment that was brought in last week. So there were no issues there. Personally, I think Niall offers a hell of a lot going forward. Sometimes goalies get a bit of stick. Willie Parkinson, I'm looking at you for leaving their station at the back, but when he offers so much, you can see why he does it.
Yeah, I'd be of the same opinion as you, Now, if he's offering more maybe than a wing back, why not sign him up and let the wing back sit
Yeah,
as
and
the spare man?
his kick passes were brilliant as well. He set up a score too just for an absolutely cracking kick passes. He is a brilliant outfield player. He could play for thrown outfield. That's something Willie Parkinson uses as a stick to beat goalies. What he says that they're basically not good enough to play outfield. But Niall's a brilliant outfield player for Eden Dork, and I know when Ferry Logan and Brian Booher came in a couple of years ago, they tried him out outfield for a while, and I suppose Ethan Rafferty is probably the perfect example of that. He used to be in the forward line for Armagh, so it's not as if he doesn't have the capability.
And then just before we finish up on this game, I suppose, just on Donegal, they're between a rock and a hard place. Pretty much they don't want to reach this league final, and it's because they play Derry in the first round of the championship the week after. So, what did you make of Donegal yesterday? They rested a lot of players, give boys game times. I suppose there was, like you mentioned, Jamie Brown and Michael Murphy, or some big names that played. But what did you make of Donegal, I suppose, heading into the final round?
I suppose I think they were uncharacteristically loose in defence. Tyrone racked up 25 points, and they could have scored more. I think that 8 wides or something like that in the first half alone. That was probably an obvious difference from previous occasions, and they rested a lot of players. And I do have sympathy for them, to be honest. I can totally understand why they possibly don't want to play in a league final. And Jim McGuinness is very cagey when talking about it because he doesn't want to come out and say we don't want to win X game because it doesn't the optics of that would be poor. So he sort of skirts around issues, but when you read between the lines, you can tell that he's not very satisfied with the situation, and I totally get it. I think if they do get through the league final, it could be strange in a way because it's all about championship at the end of the day. Like that's what comes down to. Donegal want to win All Ireland. That's the priority. It's not having a good league campaign or win the league title. They want to win All Ireland.
Would mention Mull, they play Derry in the first round of the championship. Derry probably turning their full focus towards championship now at this stage. They've suffered relegation, losing to Mayo at the weekend. So what did you make of it, Mull? I suppose just a sum up of their campaign, that they've been so competitive in a lot of games, just didn't get the points on the board.
Yeah, focused definitely on the championship, Sean, but I think Sunday's performance probably summed up their season. 3 or 4 spells during the game where they looked as if they were ticking over nicely. But what I've noticed over the games is the games are actually longer now because of stoppages, and they're not able to sustain it over a spell. Like there's another spell in that game where they went 1-5-0 against Dublin. It was 1-7-0 against Donegal. It was 1-7-0. Sorry, Donegal was 1-10. Dublin was 1-10-0. So those spells in the middle of games where you're not scoring, it's just absolutely crippling you. On the Mayo game, like they got off to a really good start. Like Patrick McGurk hit a cracking goal on his first senior start for Derry, and you got the feeling that they were in a decent place. Like they had obviously lost Brenton Rodgers and Lachlan Murray from the week before, and I suppose a wee bit like Galway did last year, where they had loads and loads of injuries. The problem is Derry this year haven't been able to get any results, and that's the bottom line. And the Conor Glass was immense for Derry against Mayo. Unfortunately, they just didn't have enough help for him. Oran Lynch going off after 15 minutes was a worry in terms of the game, Sean, and then in terms of obviously championship, because I honestly think that Oran Ince got far too much criticism last year. I think it was very unfair. I think he's a great keeper, had brilliant days for Derry, but for whatever reason, people behind keyboards decided to slate him, and he came back in. He was lost for the rest of that game as well. So, but again, Mayo are pretty much bang on. Like, they lost their first 2 league games, and then they were in great form at the weekend. But like, Mayo got their goal just before half time. That was probably when the damage came in this game, Sean. Like, Derry were 2 up going into half time. Paddy Tally did suggest that even if they went in level, and then they conceded that goal just before half time, Jordan Flynn, because Derry, I think, had scored 3 points off Mayo kickouts to go a point up, and to go 4 points up, and you're thinking you're in a really good place. But again, back to your point where you're summing up the league, it probably summed up in that Mayo performance. Like, Derry weren't relegated on Sunday. I just got the feeling the day that Kerry hit in the 3 goals in the last 10 minutes. I remember getting into Maghera at Celtic Park and driving home thinking, that's going to be costly. That's going to be really costly, and it was. And their best performances have been that Kerry game, and probably for about, I think they led the Donegal game for 44 minutes, in Ballyshannon. So those were the better performances. That a great comeback against Galway, but ultimately, Sean, they've 1 point. They're going to play Armagh this weekend. It's got absolutely no significance other than the fact that Armagh you'll probably touch on it later, they need something out of the game. So it's all about Ballybofey in the championship, which is going to be a tall order that we'll talk about at another time. But I think, and it's something that is a concern in the county, that the depth isn't there. Now, obviously, there's a lot of players injured, but I think the championship is the focus for now. But I think there's a longer term look in Derry where they need to start getting players from far more clubs across the county and delving into, I don't know, players at under 20 level when that's over, because as I say, that's where the longer term thing goes. Like, Tyrone have 3 All-Ireland under 20 titles in 10 years, which is a brilliant barometer. Derry are nowhere near that, and that's where they need to go. But for now, they're out of the championship, and they're probably just a case of trying to see how many of the walking wounded will be ready for Ballybofey. But deservedly relegated because they couldn't finish out games. But as a Derry man, it's really, really disappointing. You just hope that there won't be another 7 years until Division 1 football comes back to Celtic Park. You just hope that, but you can never tell.
As you'd mentioned, they play Armagh next week, and Armagh, maybe not so much fighting for their lives, but they're still in that relegation sort of zone, and they're going to have to win on Sunday to make sure that their fate's in their own hands. And last weekend against Kerry was just really disappointing performance from Armagh. I know there was a massive crowd went down to Tralee, and plenty stayed in Killarney too. They packed out both towns. And just Armagh were very flat early on. You could tell from the throw-in, even before the throw-in, Kerry were really up for this. And they might not like me saying this, but sort of using northern tactics, maybe they would put it down as. Just from the very, very start, Mike Breen straight in, wrestling with Rory Grugan, Paddy Clifford, the same with Greg McCabe, just laying down a marker that you would expect for the All-Ireland champions coming into their backyard. Kerry weren't going to be messed around, and that's how they started before the whistle. And once the whistle went, they just flew out of the chops. They had 3 points on the board almost instantly. David Clifford with 3 frees. They got the 2 goals then. Down Gainey, I think, got the first one. Clifford could actually had a goal as well. Blaine Hughes made a brilliant save early on. And then Down Gainey got a goal before Armagh really got to grips with anything. Roy Grugan and Oisin O'Neill got a couple of scores. Conor Turbot had an off day in front of the posts in terms of his frees, which is unlike him at club and county level. He's usually very reliable in terms of frees. And then Kerry got another goal, a brilliant move. I'm sure maybe our viewers have seen it on Twitter this week. Just 2 or 3 foot passes up the line. And it's played into David Clifford. He gives it off to Micheál Burns, who's flying off his shoulder, and he's fouled. And Paddy Clifford gets up and tucks the penalty away. A nice wee soccer finish into the bottom corner. on 13 points in it at half time. The game's essentially over now. I know Armagh did improve in the second half, but the mountain was just too tall to climb. And I know speaking to Kieran McGeeney after it, he was happy with how they come out in the second half, that they didn't lay down, that they did show a bit of character to stay in the game, but really they needed a goal. And they were never looked like getting a goal in that second half. Darmot Mullen could have had one in the first half. Shane Ryan made a really good save, but all in all, Kerry were deserved winners on the day, and it leaves Armagh now needing a win on home turf on Sunday, and that's something they've been actually very good at in this league campaign. All 5 of their points have come in the Box Athletic grounds, while all 3 defeats against Galway, Donegal, and Kerry have been away from home. So that's probably something they're going to have to look at, because Sunday is their second last home game of the year. They get 1 in the group stages, and the rest will all be on the road. So I think that's something that Kieran McGeeney and the Armagh team's going to have to look at. But we're going to move on to the rest of the games, and just before we do, a quick word from our sponsors, Hastings Hotel, and then we'll move on to the rest of the games.
Experience hospitality the Northwest way at the Everglades Hotel. Located on the banks of the River Foyle, the Everglades Hotel is just minutes from the centre of Derry, London Derry, with free on-site guest car parking. Whether you're here for a family meal, a big celebration, or simply a peaceful retreat, we'll make your experience as memorable as the sights in the city. Visit Everglades Hotel Derry for accommodation bookings, the latest menus, live shows and events, and much, much more. See you there.
In terms of Division 2 then, Niall Calvin had a big win at the weekend, and incredibly they're now up in that promotion conversation. They're only at points, I think, with Roscommon and Meath, so it's looking likely one of them is going to go up probably alongside Monaghan.
Yeah, I think the permutations they're complicated as ever, and it'll take a perhaps surprising run of events for Calvin to be promoted, but at the same time, they've done extremely well, even to be in the conversation. I suppose it's been well documented that a very poor start to the league, but the Wellens really turned things around a matter of weeks ago at this stage. They've gone on a serious run of results. The latest of which was that one over Stormont the weekend, which possibly the most impressive of all, because Calvin put out a rather makeshift team. Raymond Gallagher explained after the game a lot of lads are just a lot of the mainstays, which just picked up knocks and whatnot, so weren't able to play. So that was a cracking result for them. And I suppose whatever happens in round 7, they'll be confident heading into the championship. They've thrown first up, and they've picked up a bit of a winning habit and whatnot, so things are going well in the Breffni county.
And as I said, they're up there possibly getting promoted with Monaghan, who got another win at the weekend, a really impressive win over Meath, who are in that promotion hunt as well. And again, a phenomenally strong first half from Monaghan, who this seems to be a trade of theirs throughout the league. Certainly recently, they were 15 points up at half time, 120 to 08, I think it was. They'd only scored 9 points after the break, but obviously they'd done enough in the first half to win the game. Micheál Bannigan, one of the stars of the show again, he hit 08, and Jack McCarron, who only came on in the first half, he hit 07, and McCarron, maybe one of the older heads in the team. You'd imagine that come championship, Jack McCarron straight back into that starting team, because he's too good not to be, but he's been a serious impact sub over the last while, and he was super the last day again. Andrew Woods hit the net. He scored the goal in the first half. That really gave them that big cushion. And I suppose Monaghan have 1 foot in Division 1 at the minute. They're top of the table. They're in 10 points, while the chasing pack are all in 8. And they have down at the weekend, and probably take an exceptional set of circumstances again for Monaghan not to go up. I haven't read up really on the permutations, but I think Roscommon are the only team that have them on the head-to-head. So unless something exceptional happens, Monaghan have a brilliant score difference as well. So Monaghan should be, you'd imagine, in the Division 2 league final and competing in Division 1 next year. As I said, they play Down next week, and Down are fighting for their lives, but they've given themselves that fighting chance. They were 1 point winners over Westmeath at the weekend, and I suppose an important thing for Conor Laverty was getting back to winning ways in Uri, and that's exactly what they done. Pat Haverin again, outstanding. He must be one of the highest scorers in the country at the minute. He hit not 14. John Maghera, he made his first appearance for Conor Laverty, his first start on the edge of the square, and he hit 1-1, while Adam Crimmins was the hero. He hit the point at the end of the game, which gives Down a fighting chance. So pretty much they have to win next Sunday in Clonus to have a chance of staying up, while their win over Westmeath sees Westmeath relegated back down to Division 3. So that's all the action in Division 2. Division 3 then, Mal, I suppose it was a tough defeat for Antrim at the weekend against Sligo, and while I don't think they're not relegated yet, it gives them a big challenge to stay up. They play Kildare next week.
Yeah, they have to travel to Newbridge, Sean. Now, they obviously will have to focus on themselves, but they need Leitrim to beat Sligo as well. That's the only way it can happen. Now, from their own point of view, at least they can go to Kildare knowing that there's a chance, as they say. But they were down at half-time, 1-11 to 6 points. I think they sort of switched off for a goal just before half-time. Pat Spillane gave it to Luke Tow. I think he panned it home. Then Dominic McHill came on. I'm not sure exactly when he came on, but he lamped over a brilliant point and he got a goal in that second half to bring themselves back into it. Now, they're without Mark Jordan, which was a big loss, but they got 6 points from goalkeeper Michael Byrne. But they were in it. They had the chances to get something out of it. But Sligo hadn't been firing, and Sligo's a team I've sort of been looking at to see they had at least the decent under-20 progress, and Tony Mack would be no slow dozer in terms of management. So I was looking at them this year, but they seem to be struggling. So an important result for them. And from the league point of view, Antrim have to go to Kildare, and Kildare then lost at the weekend, so they're going to be looking for a bounce. So it all points to Antrim being relegated, albeit not right at the moment. And then obviously the difficult situation is that it could potentially be Antrim's last game this year. As it stands, in my opinion, quite rightly, they want to play at Corrigan. They're going to be at Corrigan. The Ulster Council say it's going to be in Uri. So at the minute the game doesn't take place, then they are potentially out of the Hurling Cup. So this could be the last game of the season, which is quite freakish, really. But I suppose from Andy McEntee's point of view, the short term is about training a couple of times this week, heading to Kildare and seeing can they absolutely throw everything at it, and then just go in after the match and hope that Leitrim have been able to conjure something. But a tall order, Sean.
And now, just to wrap up on the football in Division 3, obviously Fermanagh and Leitrim didn't go ahead at the weekend. Leitrim, I suppose everybody knows the situation now. Leitrim just didn't have enough players to fulfil the fixture, and I suppose just something like this now, it doesn't help anybody. It's an unfortunate situation for everybody involved.
Yeah, I suppose that's a hell of a turn of events. We used to seeing withdrawals maybe at club reserve matches and here, there, and here and there, so to speak, but not at the county football level or the national league. So it's not good. I do feel a wee bit sorry for Stephen Poacher and been a calm for us for years, and he's a nice fella. He gets a hell of a lot of stick online that basically crosses line into just absolute abuse, and it's not fair, it's just pushing it a bit. But yeah, it's an unfortunate turn of events, and I suppose it leaves Fermanagh in the position where they were rewarded 2 points by default, and they still have a slim chance of promotion. No, their PRO, they have a few words players who you saw yesterday saying that they were a wee bit frustrated figure the whole thing as well. Obviously, they'd rather win the 3 points in the field of play, but yeah, it's I suppose it doesn't. It's disappointing from a Leitrim perspective anyway, and I'm sure there's a lot of talk in the county about where things are going, but at the same time, still feel a bit sorry for Stephen Poacher getting so much flack online that's of a very personal nature.
So there were a few hurling and camogie results at the weekend too down. So for their first loss in Division 1B, Meath beat them 230 to 421. But of course, Down won't mind, they're already promoted. And the sorry, that is Division 2A. They're up to Division 1B, and they will play in the league final. They play Kildare in the league final, but it's their first defeat. Tom McGrattan did score 212 for them, while Chris Egan and Ben Taggart hit the goals. In Division 3A, Armagh gave themselves a chance of staying in the division. They defeated Calvin at the weekend. Shea Harvey and Donny McGee hit their goals, while Sean Keaton hit both majors for Calvin. And on the camogie front, Antrim won the Ulster showdown between Down. They won 115 to 012, and that sees them through to the league final, where they're going to play Clare. So on to our highlights of the week then. And Mal, you've went with Jack McCloy for your player of the week. Maghera, obviously Hogan Cup champions once again.
Yeah, changed my mind a good few times in this one, Sean, but he was absolutely brilliant yesterday. He made a save. If anybody hasn't saw it, check it out on Twitter. It's unbelievable. Like, for such a big man, he got down so low to tip it around the post, and at that stage, it would have brought the game back to 3 points. And he caught one above the crossbar. And I think what's refreshing too is that the three lads that I interviewed last week for the Gaelic Life for the preview, they all played well on the big day. And sometimes in the media, people say, well, don't do interviews because you'll end up having a bad game. And the three amigos were absolutely top drawer. But Jack McCloy was exceptional. He didn't get man of the match. Podrick Harn did, but I thought just Jack McCloy's overall performance was outstanding.
And as we spoke about Nell, your player of the week was Nell Morgan, while I went for Jack McCarron, and we've both picked the Down result as our result of the week. I suppose it's just because it was such a big result in terms of their fight to stay in Division 2.
Yeah, definitely. Brilliant game of football by all accounts. I suppose the scoreline says it all. And yeah, the Down have been unfortunate because they've been playing very well, but just haven't managed to get the results. So it was good to see them get a wee bit of luck on this occasion as much as anything else.
And while your result of the week was Calvin overcoming Roscommon, as we spoke about, and your shock of the week was Offaly beating Kildare, which, as you sort of mentioned, has ramifications for Antrim's trip to Newbridge this week.
It does. I just got the impression that Kildare was a team that were going to win every single game, and maybe that's just unfair, but it just looked that way. And like to Mickey Hart and Declan Kelly, they've put in a brilliant performance, and they could possibly be promoted now on the back of that. So what a result for Offaly, and I suppose it's got that wee Ulster interest as well with Mickey being involved. So what a performance.
And now you spoke about the Leitrim and Fermanagh situation, so we don't really have to cover that. That was your shock of the week when 9 was Armagh's defeat to Kerry, and maybe not so much the result, just the margin at the end, the 10-point difference. Certainly didn't see that coming when I made my way down to Tralee at the weekend. I don't know, Mal, your score of the week is David Clifford, and it was you could pick any of them, but you picked his last point, which he turned around and fist bumped the crowd. It meant a lot to him.
Yeah, I probably a credit a notable point out to Patrick McGurk's goal as well. But this score for me, Sean, typified why Kerry are going to be well in the shake-up for All Ireland. Darren McMullen, who scored a brilliant goal against Donegal, had a shot saved by Shane Ryan. There was a couple of quick first passes. I think Dermot O'Connor got the ball. I can't remember who the middleman was, but Dylan Guinea, head up, kick pass into Clifford. And like he was marking Barry McCambridge, who, everybody knows what Barry McCambridge's credentials are. He turned inside over the bar, and an exhibition of what you can do with these new rules from terms of heads up football. And David Clifford, lads, is going to take, like he is every year, David Clifford's going to take some watching.
So is Damien Comer now going by Saturday night's performance against Dublin?
Yeah, it's just a cracking finish. It was reminiscent of Michael Murphy's goal in All Ireland, the final back in 2012, just in terms of the sheer power he put into the shot.
And I went with Shea Gaffney's score of the week for the Armagh hurlers. Again, it's on Armagh's social media pages. He wins the Armagh puck out in the air, turns around and fires it over the bar. It was a beautiful score that only lasted, a couple of seconds, but a brilliant score for Shea Gaffney and a really important one. And my unsung hero of the week was John McGill. As I'd mentioned, he scored 1-1 on his first ever start for Conor Laverty and for Down. I think he usually plays wing back for Kerry Duff, but he was the bear in the score on Saturday night, so he had a big impact. And now you went with Gary Mohan for your unsung hero of the week.
Yeah, I just want to give him a wee shout out. He's only returned from injury there, and he's a very, very important player from Monaghan in the middle sector. And a great game against me for all accounts.
And just to finish up your unsung hero of the week, Mal, Katie Malloy.
Yeah, Katie, I think she got 4 or 5 points in Antrim's win over Down. I think that's their 4th win in the trot. And she was winning frees as well. So fair play to Katie and fair play to Antrim for getting a decent run, in their season so far. And no, it's a good result for them.
So just before we finish up then, we're going to hear from 2 of Maghera's Hogan Cup winners. Mal spoke to Darragh O'Neill and Porter Harnan in Croke Park on Monday. So we're going to hear from them now, and we'll be back Thursday with another preview show. So thanks everybody for tuning in, and make sure to come back on Thursday. And thanks to Mal and Nell for giving us their thoughts on all the games this weekend.
Thanks.
To score a goal at Croke Park with the last kick of the season, what did that feel like?
It's unbelievable. You can't even put it into words. Just unbelievable in that position. Thankfully, Frank gave it to me, but that was unbelievable.
And playing here, like, you were here last week, you said your walk around, but it's very real when the ball goes in. Cormac Oak's point was probably exactly what you needed with the very first attack.
Oh, Cormac's a serious player for us. He's our go-to man. Like, anytime you need a score, he'll come up with a score. But Cormac's unbelievable. He always backing the door.
The group itself, I think, is won a first-year title. There wasn't much since COVID, sort of maybe hampered preparations here and there, but like growing up through the school, this is the pinnacle. Like, when did you realise you had a group that you could really, get something out of?
Like, we set out to start the year, and the manager's play off this year, sentence the other side, leave the ego at the door and work hard for each other. And it's paid off. The boys just work unbelievable for each other, never stop. It's unreal. And
the group itself, what's it like to be in amongst them? Because I'm sure you have your fair share of characters.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Hey, I think the Snowmurray Lockett was saying we've done over 150 sessions this year, and it's well paid off for us. It's unbelievable.
And finally, what does this do for the school? What does this do for the football careers of the lads who are in that dressing room?
Oh, this is massive for the school, especially having won Hogan since maybe 2014 or something like that there. But it's massive. Hopefully it brings us right up to the top again.
Arn, Hogan Cup winner, man of the match, Croke Park in the background. How do you try and sum it up? Because you have to be buzzing.
There's no words to describe it like, but we know that we came on this here doing a serious amount of work. Like, there was no more. We came on here thinking there was no more what to win. So we just kept our shoulder down, worked hard for each other, never give up. Even whenever our shooting wasn't great in the first half and the second half, we just kept going. And then obviously we pulled away at the end. So just glad to get the win overall. I'm so proud of the lads.
You had a few big moments. Obviously Turlock's goal against St Mary's Marfelt, 2 goals down in the Macquarie final, conceded a goal early against Tralee. But going into today's final, what was the nerves like? Because it's different playing at Croke Park.
No, it is different. It's obviously a big massive stadium, but we got to look down here last week just to sell ourselves, so we're not thinking about the stadium, we're more thinking about the match in general instead of the atmosphere we're playing in. So that sort of grounded us a wee bit, so we got the nerves out. And then walking over the pitch, I could just feel like there's no nerves in us. We just walked on, we were all focused and we were just ready to go.
I was chatting to Mr. McAteer inside, and he highlighted the Chrissy and the Sean Marty card in terms of coaching and bringing us together. What have the 2 men brought? Because Wooly was speaking very highly of them, but as a player, what have they brought you?
They're serious coaches. They've coached to an inch of life. Like, we know the plays defensively, offensively, both kickouts inside out, like off by hurt. Serious motivators too. Like, there's games where we would have been tipped to be underdogs, and they would have let us know that. It'd give us extra motivation going ahead and won the games, and we went ahead and done it too.
When did you feel you had it won? Was it Darragh O'Neill's behind us here? Was it his going in, or was it before that? Because you were comfortable. Maybe you didn't feel that, but when did you feel you had it?
No, I felt comfortable coming out at half time. I knew that we'd obviously lost Callan. That was a big, massive blow. and we knew obviously Kevin's coming in, he's a big asset to us as well. So we knew we were coming in with a good player coming on as well, and we were just confident coming out.
Father, congratulations and thanks for your time.